Hi, I'm Damien, and today I'm in Shikinejima, which is a really small island on the west coast of Japan. It's not particularly easy to get here, and there's only 500 people that live here. So not a lot of people have seen Shikinejima, but it's a very beautiful island, and it has beautiful nature, really interesting, a great place to come in Japan's summer. I actually used to work on that island. You can see in the background, and so that's how I knew about Shikinejima. Anyway, a friend of mine was visiting Shikinejima, and he was a type 5. We were staying on the island back over there, but we came here to this island because it was, such a picturesque island and definitely worth seeing. And we were only here for maybe half a day. We weren't staying the night. So this was his only time, his one chance to see Shikinejima. And he was like, wow, this is nice. Nature's great. He loved the beaches. He loved the free onsens, the natural onsens. There's a hot spring. There were hot springs that were actually in the ocean. And he thought it was a great place, which is pretty much what all the foreigners think and all the Japanese think that come here. And we had these electrical bicycles. So it was really easy to get around. Well, it's a very small island, but it's hilly. And so we were riding around on these electrical bicycles. And it's not like we could come past anything twice. It was just, we were doing whatever we saw, that was going to be it. Going to go past, maybe stop here and there at the beaches. And as a type 5, this guy sort of did something that I felt really epitomizes type 5 behavior. And maybe you can see it in the background. Oops, let me pull that back up. You see this lighthouse here? This lighthouse. Let me show you this lighthouse. Okay, so we got this lighthouse in the background, and we have this vista. As you can see, we have all the islands, nearby islands, and it's quite the trees and everything, the nature, it's the hills. It's a really nice looking area. This was my island. Anyway, so we're riding along in these mountains, sort of following the coastline because we want to see as much as the ocean view as we can. Because there's all these different islands in the background, and it's a great panorama. So we're looking out, and I'm pointing out different islands and saying different things and pointing out different beaches that we pass in different areas. Because I used to live in the area, I used to live in an island just about 800 kilometers away. But this was the only time he was ever going to come. And we're riding along, and at one point I'm like, hey, look at this, blah blah. And he's like, oh yeah, oh okay, yeah. And I can sort of hear that his responses are very, like, he's not focusing on what I'm saying, like he's not looking out at what I'm looking out at, which is just whatever was coming past, the panorama. Like, we're looking towards the ocean and the beaches. Well, I was looking out towards the land as I rode my bicycle. And the electrical bike, so we're just heading along and we're seeing all these awesome views. And as I'm pointing them out, he's just like, yeah, okay, oh yeah, yep. And I'm like, look back, and he's just staring at his phone as he's riding. And if I mention something, he quite briefly looks up and is like, oh yeah, okay. And he's still looking at his phone, just like, oh, okay, yeah, right. And so this is how it's gone along. And so at one point I'm like, what are you looking at? What's on your phone? because I'm thinking to myself, he's never going to ride past here ever again. He probably never will come to this island again in his life. What's so important on his phone? And he's looking up, and he's like, oh, I just want to find out about that lighthouse back there. And it's this lighthouse. And I'm like thinking to myself, what? Like, we will never see this again. You'll never see this again. These panoramas, Shikinejima and the surrounding islands. And you're riding along on a section of road right by the ocean, and you're looking at your phone. And he was looking up this lighthouse. Now, the thing is, he doesn't build lighthouses. He doesn't have a job in the marine industries. He's not an architect or anything like this. So there's no real meaning for him to this lighthouse. But he's looking up the history of this lighthouse on his phone. And it really epitomizes type 5s to me, because it epitomizes this relationship they have with information. They're often thought of as information seekers, which is true, but I don't think that really describes well their relationship to information. I think a better word would be information hoarders. They hoard information, because hoarding, it implies an imbalance. And that's more the relationship they have with information. It's about hoarding. It's not about seeking, because what do you call information? Like seeing this panorama for the first time in your life, and the only time, that could be counted as taking in information, and it could be counted as a really important activity. But that wasn't prioritized. That information, that experience of seeing these views that he'll never see again, wasn't prioritized. What was prioritized was looking up the history of this lighthouse, which, no offense to this lighthouse, is a pretty unimpressive lighthouse. And so it's the balance, it's the kind of information that they're interested in. It's more like these facts and discrete pieces of information. By discrete, I mean it's just like a piece of information that is. It's not related to anything meaningful. It doesn't go anywhere. There's no conclusions drawn, there's no analysis. It's just this finite, discrete piece of information. Like, there was 4 people with blue shirts on the beach today. It's like, okay, great. The average temperature in Arizona is blah blah degrees in May. You know, this kind of information that. So this is the kind of information that they tend to hoard, more so than say that meaningful, that making decision about something, sort of conclusion, analysis, information. And so, yeah, it really did sort of, I was like, okay, this is a real type 5 thing, looking up the history of this lighthouse. And there's a cost benefit here to that. Like, the cost is that he misses out on this panorama that he'll never see again, to find out the history of this particular lighthouse. And so you see this imbalance, and it's a balance, well, it's weighted towards, they prioritize just finding out this just information, getting the information, hoarding the information, rather than, say, judging what's important, rather than, say, drawing conclusions. There isn't the cost benefit analysis undertaken towards getting the information so much. They're the type of person that I think is likely to miss the forest through counting how many leaves are on this particular tree. and they won't realize that there's actually a whole forest there. They won't even have seen the forest. They'll just, because it was so important to them to count how many leaves was on the tree. So this is the kind of relationship they have with information. And for example, he was interested in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is like a kind of wrestling that has joint locks and chokes. And I too was interested in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Now they're the information seeking type, but he didn't really know a lot about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And it was more, I could definitely see him though being the type of guy that would really be sort of panicky at the thought that, oh no, maybe I'm going to miss out on, I got to get a hold of the next instructional from this world champion. Oh, I've got to get a hold of this instructional from that world champion. And he'd have to really panic to get this information, these instructionals, or record particular competitions, particular jiu-jitsu matches. And then, however, he would have all this information and he'd have this big library of instructionals and competitions, but he'd have a massive hard drive full, but he wouldn't actually learn these techniques that he has, but he'd feel really comfortable knowing the information's there and he can get it. That would give him a real sense of comfort, but he wouldn't actually practice these techniques. He wouldn't actually do something with this information and make it valuable, give it meaning. So the doing part isn't weighted nowhere near as much as just the collecting of the information. And he would never have, like, you couldn't have a discussion with him about what moves are more important at certain levels of development in jiu-jitsu. This kind of analysis or anything like this, he doesn't have any information. He can't have a discussion about that, but he would be very much, like I said, intent on getting and have this big collection of jiu-jitsu instructionals and whatnot. So yeah, I think this story about the Lighthouse really epitomizes to me a type 5 personality. And of course this is a particular individual, so obviously there's higher functioning type 5s that wouldn't have maybe as an extreme issue like that, or I shouldn't say an issue, but anyway, I hope this has been useful, and I might just give you a bit of a view of Shikine-jima in the background. If you like this video, please subscribe, press the like button, leave a comment. Thank you. Everyone seems to be having a good time, and I've set myself up here. Hopefully I'm just going to sort of chill for an hour. Thought I might do some snorkeling. I think there's some good snorkeling out at all these rocks, near these rocks. We're in Shikine, Japan. Shikine-jima.